Hey guys, missed you all. Today we're going to be talking about role definition and flexibility with regards to roles in T20 cricket specifically. I think it's very valid seeing that the IPL is on. We can actually identify certain players that are doing some work, etc. Currently in the system, internationally against the best players, watching what they've been doing. I think there's a lot of flexibility with regards to certain roles when certain players are being selected in the IPL. They're expected to bat anywhere within that in a team lineup, generally speaking, when I'm looking around the grounds. Not necessarily always people performing within there or playing within their specific specialist position. So I thought let's talk about role definition and flexibility. Aditya also agreed with me that he gave the topic idea to me and I accepted it. And I said, you cool, that will be an awesome idea to actually speak about. So let's get into today's vision and today's topic. Let's talk about this because I really want to discuss it a little bit more in depth, get to understand what Aditya thinks about it as well when he joins us. And to try and get an understanding of what that means. I've spoken about it quite a bit. I've spoken about having flexible players within in your team, particularly when it comes to the batters. I think that's more relevant than anything else. I think when you're talking about bowlers, being versatile necessarily isn't something that you maybe look at or flexible because you'll pick a player based on his skills and the ability to be able to bowl on those particular surfaces. So yes, they do need to have some flexibility as well as certain role definitions within bowlers. But we will talk about all the positions that we can and discuss some of the players that we think are flexible within their roles. Who are examples of that in South African cricket that we can maybe speak about? So that's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Now, before we get going, before we get started, if that button is red at the bottom of the screen, please click subscribe. Please click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to also smash the like button, comment, and share with all your friends and family. Follow us also on TikTok. We are putting some clips on TikTok as well so that we can get our content spreading a little bit more so that people can start following us, obviously, more on YouTube. So go ahead and follow us there and share our content with everybody that you can find, guys, so that they can follow us on this particular platform. Don't forget to also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. We designed this magazine so that you guys can get exclusive content from our writers, can get insights into South African cricket, and really an opportunity for us to promote different stories and tell the true stories of South African cricket. Things that you won't be able to hear on or see anywhere else in South Africa. We've got the exclusive content with regards to some things in here, and you'll only find it in Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. So go ahead and click on the link on the screen or in the description. We also have a Patreon account. That's what we started, so that we can basically also allow you guys to be a part of what we are doing over here. We need your help to become patrons. We are 100% bootstrapped, so it really helps if you guys get involved with regards to the Patreon account. So the link is on the screen as well as in the description. There are different tiers for you to also get involved with and also select. So go ahead and go check our Patreon site and also cricketfanaticsmag.com. I'm just doing all my punting up front here, guys. Cricketfanaticsmag.com is where you get all your updates, your news updates, everything that's regards to South African cricket that we create, exclusive features, etc. All goes on cricketfanaticsmag.com. Our magazine is different because it's themed according to a certain theme, of course. And cricketfanaticsmag.com is where we put everything else. You know, we have stories that we want to tell that's maybe not related to the theme, of course, and is maybe related to current situations. We put it up on cricketfanaticsmag.com. So go there for that updates as well. So without further ado, guys, the super chats are on. If you want to get your comments in and support us in that way, that's another way you guys can support us. But let's get straight into today's video. Looking forward to having this discussion today. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host Khalid, and this is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. Now, today we've selected a specific topic. It's about role definition and flexibility within the T20 game. And I think it's something that is a hot topic, actually, something interesting to talk about leading into our preparation for the World Cup. Now, we've had some in depth discussions on the channel in previous shows about who we think should be in the Proteas setup, who should be in the squad going to the T20 World Cup. I mean, on many occasions, I've said that we need to keep that core that went to the World Cup and maybe change that went to the previous World Cup. And change maybe one or two or add a little bit more to that going forward so that we can find a real true winning combination going into the next World Cup. So that's what I'm hoping that we're going to be doing. I hope that we are going to be selecting players. Currently, when I look at the previous team, that it seems to be a lot more um, adaptable players or flexible, you could say, players that were selected. But for South Africa, it's particularly flexible in the top three, I would say, more than anything else. So it's a lot different to how we will probably speak about it and define it. We've got a teacher with us right now. How's it, bro? Good to see you. So when it comes to South African and South African cricket and building that Proteas team, it's very important that we do have flexible players, adaptable players, and certain players need to know and know how to define their roles. But before we get into that, and before we go to a South African point of view and who we think can fit those roles, Aditya, when you look at role definition and flexibility in T20 cricket, how do you define the two? How do you relate the two? What is your thoughts on both topics? What do you look for? And is it particularly got to do with batters, or are you also looking at bowlers when you think about those roles?
I'm thinking about all 11 players because uh, to me, certainly in T20 cricket, where England has almost set the standard with a slam bang approach, from ball 0 to 120. Uh, I don't know if it works for all teams, and I don't know if it works for all conditions. I still feel like adaptability is the most important attribute that a team can possess in in all three formats, and certainly T20. And part of the reason that I'm thinking about this is because of the trends that I've observed through the course of this IPL. For example, if you look at the Punjab Kings, who are, I think, 82 for 7 right now. If you look at the Punjab Kings on paper, they have by far the strongest batting lineup. But do they have the most adaptable batting lineup? Absolutely not. They've built their team based on the England approach of smacking it straight from ball zero. And that's costing them in this tournament because this is probably the second or the third time where they've lost 7 wickets under 100 runs. And that to me is an important factor in your success, particularly in multi-team tournaments. You have to be adaptable. You have to respect the conditions. And teams, typically, the strongest teams will have the most adaptable players for those conditions. You know, so I think these are certain things that came to my mind.
So when I look at the two, I would differentiate them because role definition and flexibility are kind of opposites in a way. Because I feel that certain people, certain teams, or certain situations need role definition. Like we've spoken about it, and we said a lot of the times, oh, but we don't know what the roles our batters are meant to implement. Like for example, South Africa's batting lineup in the T20 cricket, especially international cricket. For example, what is Temba's role? Because he seems to be flexible, right? What is Quinton's role? He's the only one that has a role definition in that team, I think. He's always the opener. He's always going to be selected. His part now, however, has fluctuated. It's changed. there hasn't been consistency with regards to his partners. Some people think it should be Yanaman. Some people think it should be Temba. Some people think Faf should come back. Some people even think it should be Riza. So there's been different people. Some even would argue the case that Markham should open the batting in T20 cricket, even though he's done excellently well in the middle order. So when it comes to role definition within South Africa, there isn't much of it. Typically speaking, there's a lot of flexibility happening within this, in the side, particularly in the batting lineup. I think when it comes to our bowlers, the same thing is happening, because why I say that is because for a long period of time we thought that KG and Andrich would be our death bowlers, but in the World Cup we saw Dwayne Pretorius take that role, and that what became his role that was defined in that particular World Cup. So we're seeing more flexibility than role definition. So when it comes to that, Aditya, I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer necessarily. But which one do you lean towards, and does how much does the conditions play a part in whether you want to have what can I say, sturdy role definitions and strict role definitions, or having teams that are flexible that you can change according to the situation?
So role definition is definitely key, and certainly in T20 cricket. Um, does that mean that teams have to be inflexible? No. For example, if you look at David Miller playing for the Gujarat Titans, yeah, he's coming in at number 4 typically, and he's coming in at number 4, whether that's in the 5th over of the game or whether that's the 15th over of the game. So they've stuck with that, and Miller has shown that he's got the game to be able to bat long. But here is also where data comes in, because we talk about AB de Villiers, for example. AB de Villiers' statistics show that consistently he is a better player when the game is set up for him. So when AB de Villiers comes in, let's say after the 10th over, for example, he is significantly better compared to him coming in after the 5th over. The same with Dinesh Karthik. You look at how Dinesh Karthik has been used for RCB this year. He's typically coming in, post the 14th or the 15th over, and that's also where we need to take data seriously, because it does offer some sort of insight into the player's strengths, and definitely the mental side of the game as well. Because if Dinesh Karthik goes in the 5th over, he may not be as effective compared to when he goes in the 15th over. And you compare that with someone like Faf, for example. Faf's strength is that he can build an innings and he can switch through gears, so he can actually bat 20 overs if you need him
Okay.
to.
So can you have a team that has both? That's my question. Yeah. Can
Yeah.
you have strict the role definitions and as well as having flexible players? Because in the past
Yeah.
I've said that we should. I normally said that I think our openers specifically have to have, or you could have. I think our openers specifically, I need to have an understanding of how they want to approach the game. I think that's probably the most important role definition that we could get within the team. So, how would you see the mixing both? How would you see having the perfect synergy within a team?
So, for example, let's say South Africa batting first, okay, on a new pitch, and they're trying to get a sense of what a good score is going to be on that pitch.
Mhm.
So let's say when they won the toss, they elected to bat, and they feel like 180 is going to be a good score.
Okay.
But they come in and they find that this pitch is actually tricky. It's not as easy as we thought it might be. Okay, so initially you go for that slam bang approach. You want to set the platform for 180, but then you realize that this is a challenging wicket. Even 150 might be enough. So that's when you adapt your game. You start playing a little. You start playing um, a little more conservative cricket. Be a bit more risk averse there, because in on a difficult wicket, if you try to go for 180 and you get dismissed for 130, then that's a problem. But if you feel like you try to get to 150 safely, and then if you have bonus overs and wickets in hand, you go for
Okay.
glory. That's another story. But I think that's what I mean by adaptability and flexibility. But there's another story to flexibility as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about. when
Yeah.
it comes
So you believe that we should have both. There should be a role definition as well as flexibility within the team. Okay, makes a lot of sense, and I like that because I would also like a blend. Um, because we do see certain situations where people only, like you said, if the game plan is just one role definition game plan, it might not always come off, and you can't still stick to that same game, like you explained previously, um, as for the example. So who do you think? Sorry,
Hmm.
yeah.
Look, if you're chasing 220, for example, okay, you're chasing 220 and you're 100 for two in the 12th over, then at that point you don't necessarily need to have Rassi van der Dusen there. You can send David Miller because the need of the moment there is for South Africa to be ahead of the game. So that's flexibility as well, where you're not going by your conventional batting lineup, but you're doing what the situation demands.
Hmm. Which we've
And
asked for a lot, actually. We've asked South Africa to do so because with the type of plays that they have, you know, when you lose a wicket after having 100 of the, let's say you have 100 after 10 and you only lose your first wicket, which is not a really good strike rate. But generally speaking, if you have 100, okay, so let's say 100 after 8 and and you lose your first wicket, maybe in that particular case, bringing someone like Temba Bavuma is maybe not a good idea. Maybe then bringing a David Miller, like you're saying, is an option. Or Aiden Markram, if you think that he can maybe kick on faster. But I think David Miller seems to do that transition a lot quicker than Aiden, dependable on the mood that Aiden's in. So can you maybe give me an example of maybe some teams that you've seen this year in the IPL? Because I haven't watched the IPL as much. I've watched it glimpses here and there, and I've watched games here and there. I haven't kept my eye on it. Mostly when South Africans are playing, I keep an eye on it. Can you maybe give maybe not only South Africans, maybe international teams as well that you feel have gotten closest as possible to this type of role and definition and flexibility in T20 cricket?
actually, I'll give you an example of a team that hasn't done it well
Okay,
because I
cool.
think that's equally important. So you look at the Lucknow Super Giants, for example. I saw them yesterday. I was at the ground, and they were chasing, I think 178, 179. And you look at when Marcus Stoinis comes in. So they lost an early wicket. Quinton de Kock was dismissed early, and then KL Rahul he followed suit. There were 3 wickets down in the power play,
Hmm.
and there was a rebuild between Deepak Huda and Krunal Pandya. But they weren't really able to accelerate to the degree that they required, and they lost wickets. So by the time Marcus Stoinis comes in, he's got too much to do. His skill set is not utilized, and he simply doesn't have enough time to get the job done, nor does he have enough partners to do it. So that is an example. KL Rahul and the management generally have been guilty of holding on to Marcus Stoinis too late. There are times when he's coming in the 17th over, but sometimes the situation, like it was yesterday, demanded that he be promoted up the order
Hmm.
because the run rate was rising, and it would have been useful to have perhaps an Indian batter stay back for a period of time.
So I would prefer. I mean, it seems like I would rather prefer than having, like when you're talking about role definition, rather having it to having the definition and understandability of having a person do a certain role for a specific occasion rather than attached to a specific position. For
Yeah,
example, we have this idea that number six is our finishers. Number one opening batters in T20 cricket should have an X strike rate or X this and X that. So you're talking about maybe exploring it a little bit more with regards to having roles rather than actually things that are defining a specific batting position or specific role in the side.
yeah. So, for example, if you look at Faf du Plessis,
Mm.
he's a classic example of a player who who can switch through the gears, but he's most effective as an opener. He's obviously better at number 3 and number 4 for South Africa as well, but he's most effective as an opener. And if you look at his stats, when he bats when he bats past the 15th over, his strike rate towards in the death overs is over 206. He's he's got a better strike rate than Chris Gale if he bats past the 15th over, and we think of him as an anchor. And you look at the number of times that Faf du Plessis has batted past the 18th over, and the team has won the game. The vast majority of the time, when he bats past the 18th over, the team wins.
Hmm.
Right? So any team that Faf du Plessis is in, his role has got to be to bat as long as possible.
That makes me think about Quinton de Kock specifically. We should then speak about, because in the South African lineup, I'm looking at his, for example, his last couple of matches. He hasn't been in the best of form. 80, 39, 24, 3, 10, 46, 23, 50, 11, 7. So like he doesn't necessarily, he's not necessarily bringing what you expect necessarily from an opener. What is his role in South Africa's lineup? Because te- what we tend to see is he does really well in the power play and tends to slow down. And it actually hinders up our innings a bit, because other guys then are out of strike where you expect your in batter to be the one that's the main aggressor. And I've seen him kind of fall off in a lot of games, particularly in T20 cricket. In ODI cricket, it's different. I've seen him accelerate later on and actually bat deep and bring us to like to the 15th over. I mean, sorry, not the 15th over. To bring us late on into the 30th over, 40th over, with some good runs on the board. But in T20 cricket, for South Africa specifically, because I think that it's not. I think Quinton de Kock is currently in a situation where I don't think he's understanding what his role is currently within T20 cricket in general. Not only in international cricket, but generally speaking, because we've seen Quinny put on some great performances with the bat as an opener, um, and not always as when he goes out is South Africa in a great position though. Like I'm feeling, oh no, we're comfortable, we're far ahead now. The guys just need to come in and do their jobs. Sometimes his wicket can cause a little bit of issues because he's the only one that has runs on the board, and we're in trouble. So what sort of role should Quinton de Kock take in T20 cricket? Do you think he's a little bit confused about what his role is currently and how he needs to perform?
I I do. I do think that he is confused, but you look at the other side of the spectrum. I don't think his game has evolved over a period of time. I think oppositions have studied him, and they know where exactly they can stop him. And if Quinton de Kock is a remarkably talented player, but if he's stuck in a rut, it's very difficult for him to get out of it. If opposition has strangled him, he typically gives in. And again, I want to give you another Faf du Plessis example.
That's so true. That is so. I've seen that so many times where he's been bogged down and then he just ends up just like, whatever. Like it seems that way. I know it's not that way, but it seems that way sometimes. In those
Like he can't figure out that, like, he doesn't. I think he struggles to get out of tough situations. When the pressure is on him. And I want to give you a Faf example here because he's played an innings. You look at that first innings he played against the Punjab Kings, where he scored 88 to 57. That game was a serious struggle. He was batting on 1 of 10, 10 of 20, 18 of 30. And then he just exploded. He absolutely exploded. Off his next, I think, 25 balls, he scored 72 runs. So he was able to absorb the pressure. And he knew that at that point, after consuming the sort of deliveries that he had to sort of kick on. He had to kick on and ensure that RCB were in a good position.
Yeah, because I mean,
That
I expect
That's
Quinton
the
to come.
exact situation. That is the
Yeah,
exact. That is what.
you
That
want
is
more
what
of
you've got
him.
to do in T20 cricket,
Yeah.
because you're not going to be playing on flat roads every single game. There will be times when the bowlers got the better of you, and you have to respect that. And there will
Yeah.
also be times when you're not feeling great,
Mm.
but you have to find a way to get out of it. So I think that's an important lesson then. And the opening partnership there, because what happens is that if Temba and Quinton are opening, typically you want to give Temba more time to settle down. But at the other end, if Quinton is not scoring either, then that puts additional pressure on Temba to play out of his comfort zone.
And that's what I'm seeing that is happening. I like almost like Quinton is a massive player for South Africa. I still believe that he's still a star player for South Africa, and especially in this particular team. In this particular team, we need to also look at who's on the other side. I've spoken about this a lot of times on the show, where I said whoever Quinton de Kock's partner is going to be very important because they can either bog him down or they can allow him to get off strike if he is struggling. I think that partnerships are so important, and that's where the flexibility and role definition comes in, because whoever is on the other end with because Quinton de Kock's not going to always come out firing from ball one. There are going to be certain bowlers who are going to catch him out from the beginning, and he's going to struggle a bit. And instead of it allowing it to fester and become a problem, make sure that the person on the other end is aware of this. Um, oh wow! And I see a comment. The non-striker should be crucial to tell Clinton to relax and be when he's under pressure. Yes, but I also think the non-striker can also take the pressure off him. So calling for quick singles, making sure that he has a game to be able to adapt to those situations. Now, flexibility is so important in T20 cricket because balls just disappear and overs disappear in T20 cricket. You don't have time to settle yourself in. That's why I specifically mentioned someone like Janaman Malan. I feel that Janaman Malan should add things to his games, particularly against spin, that he finds a way to be flexible against spin. So when he is struggling and not hitting the ball cleanly, he can quickly rotate the strike and hand it to the opposition, to his partner, who maybe can bat against spin a little better and can maybe find the gaps. Now having that left-handed combination will help that because Quinny will maybe be able to put a couple of scoops over or a couple of sweeps and get the ball through the gaps and put pressure back on the opposition. But we need to be less rigid with regards to our thinking. I don't think that there should only be one specific job for one player. I think that flexibility and role definition is very important to understand that. Um, but have a blend of it within the team is also very important because you need to have balance. Um, Let me just see what people are saying over here in the comments. Bibik saying Quinton de Kock stop playing the format that suits him the most to get back his form. He could be one of the best in Test, but he retired. I also thought he was going to be a Test legend for South Africa and continue. I really loved him in Test cricket. Lorenzo saying sometimes Quinton de Kock doesn't prize his wicket enough, and this is what you were talking about, um, Aditya. He shouldn't take the Jason Roy role. Just go out and be extremely positive. He should take the Jason Roy role and just go out extremely positive. But what if the situation doesn't allow him to?
I mean, look, I think should he be? Look, sometimes I think we tend to confuse aggression and positivity and all of these things with you know, look, personally, I think if you're consistent, that's more valuable to the team than scoring 15 of 8 balls, because technically that's still striking at 190. But if that 15 of 8 balls is coming from a number 6 batter, that's fine. If you're a if you're batting between 1 and 4, then someone has to take the responsibility of making that 75 or 50 balls, or 75 or 45 balls. That's their role.
But isn't that why you want a flexible person at three? So that your opener can have the freedom to bat 40 of 18, like Lorenzo suggests, or 40 of 17, for example, and gets
I
out.
agree with you. But if you look at the South African dynamic,
Hmm.
if if South
We don't
Africa
have that.
if South Africa are 10 for no loss after 2 overs, and then Quinton de Kock gets out, you're stuck. You've got a problem, because then how many players can continue playing that way? Typically the South African approach, as in what we've seen so far, is that if that happens, you spend some time, consolidating before you
Mm,
attack again.
yeah. It almost seems like when we lose the cock, we almost like the whole game plan changes to more conservative. We have guys trying to bat deep, trying to bat longer, trying to put 180, get to that 170 mark.
Yeah.
Like you kind of almost want people to believe to push past that and think 200, consistently think 200 and play with that approach. But I mean, I know we all want that attacking approach, but that's why I think flexibility is so important and finding players that are flexible. Um,
Yeah. And
so
there are different ways of getting to 200. Getting to 200 can be done in a variety of different ways. And you can score, like Temba can score 40 of 25 balls in a variety of different ways. He doesn't necessarily have to play streaky shots. Like if you look at, I mean, it's not going for Virat Kohli right now, but he's a prime example of a guy who isn't a power hitter, but he finds ways of being an enforcer that involves running hard between the wickets,
mm,
finding the gaps, and using the short boundary tactically. You know, these things matter. So I think there are different ways of getting to 200.
mhm.
And speaking of partnerships, you look at that one season when Virat Kohli made 973 runs in the IPL. You need to look at how much his partner Chris Gale at the time made as well. He was he was having the time of his life. And part of the reason that Virat Kohli was able to score those runs, no doubt that he had an unbelievable season. But a large part of that was because Chris Gale was taking that pressure off the run rate. And then if Chris Gale got out after scoring a quick 45, he's got AB de Villiers to come in. So that's balance as well.
And that's
But
why I think we need to find someone in that number three position because T20 cricket has changed a lot. It's not just a bashing game anymore. I've seen some excellent innings in T20 cricket, particularly from some more senior guys that
yeah,
haven't necessarily just gone out and smacked from ball one. I've seen people build innings as well within T20 cricket. It's changed a lot over the years.
look at Mitch Marsh today. David Warner got out first ball. He continued smacking, but then the middle order collapsed. They lost 3 wickets. He had to rein it in a bit, and he had to be a bit more calculative in the way that he took risk.
Yeah,
Similarly,
so
if
like
you
that's smart. That's the smart side of cricket. I mean, you
exactly,
can't just go gunzo completely from ball one till the end if things are not going your way around you.
yeah,
Someone needs to then reel it in at some point.
definitely, and there are innings like that. Look, I think Aaron here mentioned Brevis. Uh, David Brevis is an unbelievable talent, and he can go from ball one. But one thing that is probably likely to hold him back when teams study him is the fact that he needs to work a bit on rotational strike. Because between the fours and the sixes, there are quite a few dot balls there. And brilliant as he is, and I'm sure that he's going to work on it over a period of time, but that's something that will require a little bit of work. And
Mhm.
yes, when AB made 673 runs himself in that season. So there you go. Chris Gale made runs, AB de Villiers made runs, and Virat Kohli obviously had that mammoth season. So
Mhm.
that's balance for you.
Cool. I'm gonna go into the comments again. Quindercock thinks in a way that he is not able to score. The next batsman might struggle more than him. He should not throw his wicket away. One shot sometimes changes the whole innings. Ronald saying Rassie van der Dussen will be key for us at the World Cup. He's our faf. Plays in a situation brilliantly. Him and Muller are our best T20 batters, in my opinion. I would throw Aiden Markram into there. I think Aiden Markram currently is possibly South Africa's best T20 batter on form, I feel. Rassi is definitely a different guy in green and gold than IPL. Well, we already see Rassi in the IPL,
I
so
mean, he's played less than 10 balls in the IPL.
yeah. Good point. He definitely needs to add that to his game 100%. Current Deva, could be a good opener, not middle order.
Number three, I think
I think
they
if
will.
number three is perfect for Deovold.
Yeah, he's perfect number three.
I'm sorry, but I disagree. We will have to win an ICC event with the approach you guys are talking about. We'll lose three early wickets and bat ourselves in a hole like we always do. So what is your so we lose three early what is your approach then, Lorenzo? We lose three wickets. What approach should we go with the players that we have available to us? I would like to know that from Lorenzo.
I mean, you look at this. You look at the stats. You lose typically teams that lose 4 wickets in the power play lose the game 95% of the time. What are you supposed to do? Because like we can talk about aggression. Like even if England are playing in the World Cup, they lose 3 4 wickets in the power play, they're gone. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to score 200. It's not going to happen.
And Lorenzo, when we bat ourselves in a hole, it's normally not when we lose the early wickets. It's normally when we start the game slowly.
Yeah,
Majority of the time, we start slowly, and players are playing this conservative cricket from the start. Where I said specifically, we need to understand roles and definitions. What is Quinton de Kock's role? De Kock's role is to bat there and get as much runs in the power play as possible, and then bat deep. That's what I thought his role was initially. That's what I would like to see, because he does tend to ease off, but then he can kick on later on. So it's very important that the other end, you have an attacking batter that can find the gaps regularly, can rotate the strike, and get runs on the board. That dynamic is very important, because if you can find that dynamic, we are styling, not having two openers that clash with each other's game plan. I don't. So it's very important that we have flexibility with players. There is certain things that our players can learn from. If we can add, if Quinton de Kock can add things to his game that can obviously help him in tough starts, when we have a tough start, that will really revolutionize South Africa's innings, I feel, in every game that they play.
and we also have to take into consideration that every team has its own DNA. It has its own strengths. So South Africa will never win if they try to play like Australia. And similarly, Australia will never win if they try to play like South Africa or England or India. Now, Australia win because David Warner plays the way that he does. Mitch Marsh plays the way that he does. And their games are just naturally attacking. Now, Quinton de Kock is the closest to what South Africa have to Warner. But he's not able to produce sort of consistency that Warner is able to do. He's not able to have that impact on a game in the way that Warner is able to have. So now that's a separate story. You have to work with what you've got. Uh, but that's certainly something that has to be taken into consideration. Look, like Kane Williamson, for example, like he scored 85 in the World Cup final. That was an unbelievable innings. But he played to his strengths. He wasn't doing reverse scoops and things like that. New Zealand is a great example of that. They play to their strengths.
Yeah, my point is that you can't necessarily force someone to do something that doesn't suit their makeup. But I do feel that with regards to Quinton de Kock, there are certain aspects that he can add to his game to help him. Small little things that he could change, that I do think he's capable of changing. He's talented enough to do so. Maybe someone like Timber, you can't necessarily force him to smack 100-meter sixes all the time. He might connect one sweetly and do it now and again, but that might be unrealistic. But for someone like
Yeah.
Quinton de Kock, I have seen in certain situations, it just needs to be communicated with him that he understands what his role is within the team. And I know I'm highlighting Quinton here. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be in the team. I'm only highlighting him because I wanted him to improve so we can do better as a team. I like this from Aaron. Again, he says my personal opinion is to always have one player striking highly, which I believe should beat Quinton especially when we're opening the batting, and then one building the innings and preparing the strike later on. And I think we've got players that can do that second role. We just need to find the right combination for Quinton. We need someone that's comfortable, I think, as an opening batting in T20 cricket, that is comfortable with regards to, doesn't matter whether it's spin, whether it's seam, whatever the conditions are, that is comfortable at the crease and understands his game. That's why someone like Faf would have been perfect for Quinton, I feel, because he understands situations and his game plan very well. And also says he's a fan of bringing a pin hitter earlier if possible. Pretorius or Linda, for example, he's giving.
That's perfect. That's a great strategy, but there's a certain time, there's a
Time to
certain
do that.
place for it. So, for example, if you're chasing, 185, and you're you're 100 for three after 12 overs, okay, 8 overs, 80 runs to be made. That's when you put in a pinch hitter, try to get ahead of the game, and then your specialist batters take over again.
Mhm.
CSK does that very well, by the way.
Mhm. Should Faf not now have a chance in the in as honor in the T20 squad? I think he deserves it as he's available in the national selection. I did say so. We've been talking about Faf for a long time. I think he should come back. I even I got the Proteus security at the wedding that I was at yesterday, and the head of security, and I was speaking to him. I said, I think, can't you ask your guy Faf to come back? I know you're friends with Faf, like we know how you protect him, etc. So I said, he's like, you think so? So I said, yes, I do think so. I think Faf should come back into the setup. I told him, I dropped my 2 cents in there. I don't know if it's gonna go up higher up, but I did drop my 2 cents in there. Lauren saying, serious question. Does Temba's captaincy in T20 keep out a specialist T20 who may add more value to the team? Example, Lipper, bats and bowls, class, a more dynamic T20 player. I've thought about it, about Temba's role in T20 cricket. Um, I've thought about what his position is. I mean, there's been certain games where they didn't play him even as a as a number three. They just kept moving him down the order and bringing in the next person, the next person, the next person in. It is starting to make me think about his position within the team and whether and what his role is in T20 cricket. There is a little bit of a question mark over it, despite the fact that I've seen him perform really well in T20 cricket as well. I saw him win a game for the Lions, hitting, smashing 100. I've seen him play okay for quite well for the Josie Stars on a couple of occasions as well. So there has been T20 games, and I've stood and looked at Timba, and I'm like, wow, this guy can play. And I mean, we were talking about Timba in the World Cup and saying maybe you should get an IPL contract. Some of us were saying that. So there is a narrative that he's not a T20 Oh, well, the Lorenzo saying, Khalid, that's where T20 specialists come in. This be a real Timber is not a Timber is a specialist T20 specialist. No, but he's a gun ODI test cricketer player. So that's pretty simple for me. So he believes that Timber isn't a T20 specialist. What defines a T20 specialist in your opinion, Aditya? Because I've seen guys that are considered slower batters or slower batters make quite a successful career out of T20 cricket.
Look, I think at the moment, if you look at like Liam Livingston, for example, the multi-skilled player, who can smack it a long way, bowl 4 overs, and feel really well. That's probably the definition of your MVP in T20 cricket. Now, is Timber T20 specialist? No, I don't think he fits that mold. But he is multi-skilled because he he's an excellent batter, and he's a great captain. Like he's able to bring out the best in players. So I think that definitely qualifies as multi-skilled.
Mm.
With him as a batter, I think his batting can evolve. His batting can evolve, and I think we've seen that with a number of players, right? If like again, if we're talking about Faf du Plessis,
Yeah, he's almost evolved a lot. Huh?
he's the definition of that because he's evolved. Like you look at him in the last 3 years and you compare him with like the Faf of 2012, 2013. They're two different players, and and who would have imagined that there'd be a time when Faf is a more dangerous player towards the death than Chris Gale is. Chris Gale has scored over 10,000 runs in T20 cricket. He scored over 22 hundreds. So that's an indication that your game can evolve. You can. There are ways to become better T20 cricketer. Like Kevin Peterson, for example,
Mhm.
he hit more sixes regularly in the last 5 years of his career than in the first 5 years because he learned more about his game, and hopefully Temba will have these conversations with
Mhm.
these experts and find a way because
Mhm.
I don't think it's impossible. Like he's talented enough to be able to do it.
Okay. So I want to know from you guys. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Is Temba Bavuma talented enough to be able to adapt his game and learn those things and evolve his game? Um, they South Africa, Mark Boucher, obviously see something in Temba. I don't think Temba was forced on Mark Boucher. We can't say that, because Temba's obviously Boucher's obviously seen something in Temba that he likes, that he wants to. That's why he's selecting him. And whenever we asked him about him in the press conferences, he's also spoken about it and spoken about Temba's ability to do certain things, especially his ability to play against spin. But I want to know your thoughts, guys. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. What do you guys think of role definition and flexibility? What do you think about Timber? What do you think about Quinny? What do you think about our thoughts on the different players we've spoken about? What do you think about Lawrence's idea of maybe having Rassi as an opener? I spoke about Rassi as an opener many times on this channel before, saying that that's where I think he should bat, and it was kind of shut down by some people in before you guys actually signed up over here. Of course, I don't know how many of you guys have been there from the beginning or not, but I have spoken about it before. Um, um, but yes, let's have a conversation. I want to see not in the live chat, but say it in the video afterwards. So after this video is done live, then go ahead to the comment section and comment in the comment section. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks a lot, Aditya, for coming on the show as well and having a conversation with me. It's great to be back again. We'll see you again tomorrow with another daily show. But don't forget, click subscribe, click that notification bell for all future videos, please. It's very important that you do so. Also, download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Mag. The link is on the screen as well as in the description, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Get involved with the Patron account as well. The links are in the description, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace.